I'm Sandy. I am an Integrative Healing Practitioner, the author of Heal Yourself, and the founder of the Integrative Healing Academy. And today we have a really good live stream plan. We're going to talk about cholesterol health and prostate health. And I combine the two because I really think I can cover them all both in one live stream. It's a really controversial subject for the cholesterol. But before we get started, as always, anything you hear today is for educational purposes only. Please talk to your doctor before making any changes to anything that you're doing. Just a general liability. Now, I'm trying to bring up the live stream right now so that I can see the comments. There we go. Okay. Heidi says, thanks for doing this session. You are very welcome. Yeah, cholesterol is a really big thing. It is hugely controversial because we need cholesterol. We don't want it to be super low. We want our levels to be in optimal ranges. And if you're eating a crappy processed diet with a lot of seed oils, plant-based oils, then if you're eating like a lot of processed foods with like high fructose corn syrup and eating food that isn't real, then if you go and test your cholesterol and it's elevated, that definitely is an issue. But if you've been eating clean for a while, you've been working on bile flow, you're working on your detox pathways, and your cholesterol levels are a little bit elevated, personally, that's not something that I would worry about. Now, the ranges are going to be a little bit different in the US versus Canada. I'm going to focus on the US ranges. There is a chart in the back of my book. So in the appendix of Heal Yourself, there is a chart on all the blood work, and it shows you the conversion between cholesterol levels in the US, the optimal levels, and the optimal cholesterol levels in, say, the rest of the world, because the US is going to use a different set of units than what the rest of the world is doing. So the conversion is there. But today, when I'm talking about numbers, I'm going to talk about the US numbers, mainly because that's the only one I have in my head. I don't keep a lot of numbers in my head because my brain doesn't work with numbers. I'm very dyslexic. I will turn numbers around. There's been so many times where I'm driving and we're going somewhere and I have the address completely backwards and we're lost. So I don't keep a lot of numbers, but the cholesterol ranges, ideally we'd like to see cholesterol around the 200 mark, 180 to 200 for a healthy person. But like for myself, the last time I ran it, I think I was sitting around 220. Now, I'm not worried about that. I don't eat processed food very often at all. I have been working extensively on my detox pathways, extensively on bile flow, and I eat really good quality fats. I eat good quality meat, and I drink raw milk, which has a good amount of cholesterol in it. So to me, that is an okay number if you're elevated. Now, if you, or oftentimes it is your loved one, so your husband or your wife or your spouse, and your level, you're working on your health and you're dedicated to getting healthy, and they're not so much, right? And they're still eating a standard American diet, and they go to the doctor and they see that their cholesterol is elevated. And it really is a gateway for the pharmaceutical industry. It is where they start to prescribe their first medication with a lot of people is going to be with cholesterol drugs, high blood pressure medication, and antidepressants. So this is like their gateway to create a lifetime customer, right? Because once you get on one of these medications, it's going to cause side effects that's going to cause you to need more of these medications. So if you're that person who's following a standard American diet, or it's your spouse, because the reason why I'm actually doing this live stream was because a lot of my current clients, past clients, people in this group, they're like, oh my gosh, my husband's cholesterol level is really high. What do I do? And this is why I'm doing the live stream. So if you're one of those persons or people who are eating that way, which normally when you're in this group, you're starting to eat clean. But if you're eating the standard American diet, or your husband is eating the standard American diet, or your wife, whatever, you have to change your diet. Like that is really important. You need to stop eating the crappy plant oils like canola oil and the fast foods that are all deep fried and vegetable oil. right? So we need to move away from that. We need to go back to olive oil and well-sourced quality meat and dairy. Super, super important. That's the first step. There is not like, let's just take a supplement and try to supplement this away. Diet is really important. Now, there are going to be a lot of spouses out there who are like, I don't want to change my diet. So what can we do supplementally to help? One of the things that we can kind of do to put a Band-Aid on it so that they don't have to go on medications is to get into some plant sterols. So I really like two products. So I like Now Cholesterol Pro, which I use a lot. And then I really like the product from the makers of Fibrenza called Liposet. But the caveat to that is Liposet has milk thistle in it. So there's a lot of people who should not take milk thistle. If you have a CYP 3A4 mutation, I suck with numbers. I could have switched those around. You should not take milk thistle. And so many people are taking milk thistle and they shouldn't. If you have that mutation, your detox pathway, your phase 1 detox pathway, that enzyme in particular is running too slowly. Milk thistle is going to slow it down further. We don't want to do that. There's a lot of people who take milk thistle and they get these massive reactions from it. They're like, I'm just going to keep taking it because it's a liver cleanse. No, stop, test. Again, importance of testing. So for people, when I run their labs and I see high cholesterol and I see a mutation there, then I'm going to choose the Cholesterol Pro. If there's no mutation there, I'm going to put them on the Liposet. The Liposet is amazing. It works really, really well. I find it works better than the Cholesterol Pro. But again, if that person shouldn't have it, then we don't want to put them on it. Now, when cholesterol levels start to get like significantly elevated, if they're 260, 270, 280, some people are even in the 300, usually there's a genetic mutation there that's causing that cholesterol level to go up. So again, if your level is really high, definitely work with a practitioner. If it's starting to get elevated, then I will also add in some red rice yeast. Now, there's a lot of people on the Candida bandwagon. They are terrified of Candida and everything that will feed Candida. And they're like, oh my God, it's yeast. And we have to like take that whole thought and just throw it away. Candida can feed off anything. It can feed off fat, carbs, protein, whatever, ketones, cellular byproducts. And you have people who are like, oh my gosh, well, Candida feeds off iron, so I can't take iron even though I'm iron anemic. No, you cannot starve your body. You need to strengthen your body, get to the root causes of Candida. So if you're one of that people who just thought like, oh my God, yeast, scary, then you need to do some work onto your fears of Candida and the misinformation that's out there around that. So those Now Cholesterol Pro, Liposet is the first line of defense. Adding in some red rice yeast also helps to bring it down. But really, the big key is increasing bile flow. And we do that in my program, not at the beginning. We first run these foundation labs and we get the foundation protocol on board. That's where we see, okay, if cholesterol is high, what are the mutations in the detox pathways? What supplements can we do to address this? And we start getting phase 1 and phase 2 working. And then after we've got that on board for a few months, then we start really working on bile flow. That's part of phase 3 detox. And that's like coffee enemas and liver flushes. So many people just start doing coffee enemas and liver flushes, and they run into so many more problems. Both of them are very stressful on the body. The body needs to be well supported. And if you don't have the detox pathways moving, you're just dumping bile for no reason. And you also have to be careful. A lot of people have either stones or sludge in their gallbladder. So it needs to be done in a very gentle process. And that's why I take those 2-3 months to build up to moving this bile. So that is really key. If your cholesterol is high, you're changing the diet, you're getting on these supplements, and then you're also going to be moving the bile flow. Okay, so you've got to get that going. I'm going to look for some of the questions. I sit at 220 also is what Grace said, and my cardiologist says my veins are clear. Exactly. I sit around 220 also, and my diet is, impeccable. And I know Grace, you're not Grace. but I'll call you Grace here. Your diet should be also good because you've been a client for a while. Avocado oil is good too. So avocado oil is one of those oils that you can actually cook at high heat. I don't really love it. I prefer to cook at lower heat and use raw butter. So I use raw butter and olive oil, and then really I'm just getting fat from either the meat that I'm eating or raw dairy, which I eat a lot of. I'm so addicted to raw ice cream right now. It's kind of crazy, but it's really, really good for you. I just have to be cautious with too much because it will make you gain weight, like if you start going crazy with the raw milk. So those are really the very safe oils. Now, when you're trying to get like clean things up, oftentimes, so you'll find something with sunflower oil that's kind of in the middle. It's not horrendous like canola oil, but it's not great like the other oil. It's kind of like in the middle. So use it sparingly with the sunflower oil. You can now find like chips and everything done in olive oil or even tallow, which is one of the original fats. Much, much better for you, much more nutritious. So go with that. Coconut oil is different. You can use it occasionally, but I wouldn't use it all the time. Like it has the medium chain fatty acids, but it's not going to be as high in, the omega-3s and everything else that's good. So it's one of those, to me, it's a middle oil. It's not a, let's go and jump on everything is coconut oil bandwagon. It's one of those middle oils. The other one is flax. Flax is really beneficial because it's high in omega-3s, but it's also a phytoestrogen. So we want to be careful with that for people who are estrogen dominant. We don't really want to start driving up the flax oil either. So the importance of lab testing, to me, the really safe things to go with are going to be your raw butter. And ideally, you're not overcooking that because it's raw. We want to keep it raw. So I will cook on like medium heat. And ideally, like if you're cooking something, you cook it, you allow it to cool, and then you put the raw butter in. And if I'm cooking on the stove, then I will use olive oil, cook at medium heat. And really, why are we cooking at high heat? If we're cooking at high heat, we're probably frying something and we're not doing a benefit for ourselves. So just move it down to the low heat. But if you need to use those middle oils like the flax oil, which has benefits, but not for everybody, then, you can use that sometimes, or doing like the coconut, the avocado, the sunflower. Well, the avocado is more of a better oil. I just don't like the taste of it. So yeah, just watch that. It's really those vegetable oils, like canola oil is terrible. What are some other ones? Safflower and, oh, my brain, I don't eat them anymore. So just stay away from the veggie oils and go more to the traditional way of eating. Like what were we eating 100 years ago before we screwed everything up? So honestly, when somebody comes to me with high cholesterol, it's not something that I'm overly worried about. It's something that if they're eating crappy, we move them to a whole food diet. We get them on proper supplements. If they're on medication, we do a slow wean while getting the good supplements on board. And we start doing some work on bile flow. And then that should take care of itself. So it's not really a scary thing. I see it all the time, and it's normally a pretty easy fix. Now, when it comes to prostate health, and I wanted to tie these two together also, not just because I figured I'd have enough time, but oftentimes we're thinking about the men in our life, and when it's cholesterol or when it's our prostate, right? So let's tie that together. When it comes to prostate health, men need to have orgasms every like 1 to 2 days. And that's like, whew, that's an expectation on me, isn't it? No, it's not. It's just a reality that in order for their prostate to function really well, it needs to be releasing what is inside of it. And that happens through orgasm. So for a man, in order to keep the prostate very healthy, they need to be having these orgasms, whether that's with somebody or without somebody. That is the biggest thing that they can do for the health. Now, most men, when they're going to be running a standard blood panel with their doctors, the PSA test is going to be there. And if there is any elevation, it's often very much accompanied by lack of orgasm. Now, it goes hand in hand with high estrogen levels, right? So if we were to run a Dutch and we looked at a man who has this dysfunction with the prostate, one, they're probably having trouble getting erection, and they're probably experiencing some type of weight gain. And then we see that they're estrogen dominant on their Dutch test. So what do? It can be really hard for a man to start having orgasms every day when he's not able to. So we want to get that foundation support on board. It's so important. It's like vital for everything. Get the foundation labs on board. And from there, we want to go and we want to run a Dutch, and we want to see what's going on with the hormones. Orgasm, as much as possible, should be encouraged to help if the prostate is acting up. Eric has had some prostatitis flares in his life, and it's very, very painful, very uncomfortable for them. And when it happens, it's very hard for them to get an erection and reach orgasm. So, and then they can oftentimes start feeling a lot of shame and guilt that they're not able to. And it's like, okay, this is something to do with your health. There's no reason to feel any of those things about it. It's just working to get that happening more often, because as the prostate is able to release what's inside of it, the prostate fluid, that is really what creates and allows the sperm to move and flow through. So we want to just get that prostate working and doing its job. And then we run this Dutch test and we start to work on the hormones. And we also work on some diet changes. So for men, testosterone goes down when they eat sugar and carbohydrates, like high amounts of crappy processed carbs and sugar. So we want to limit that. We want to move them more towards meat, healthy fats, lower the carb intake. And I'm not saying that they need to go keto, but let's lower the carb and the sugar, get them onto a whole food diet, get their support supplements on board, and get them moving. Because men's testosterone levels are going to go up significantly when they're moving, when they're exercising, when they're lifting weights, when they're doing things. And they don't have to go and pump themselves to death at the gym, but they need to get moving. And doing these things is going to start to raise the testosterone levels. Then we run this Dutch and we see, okay, what does the estrogen pathways look like? That is so important, because once that estrogen starts to go up and those detox pathways start to not be able to handle it, because men aren't supposed to have high levels of estrogen, and their detox pathways are like, what is this? Like, what do we do with this? And they normally don't detox it very well. So we need to add support on board. We need to bring the estrogen levels down. We need to get the testosterone up. And we also have to look at the metabolism of the androgen pathways, right? So a lot of them are going to the alpha pathway, which is very toxic. So we need to put prostate support supplements on board, which are actually working on that pathway. So if you, another product is now Prostate Pro. It's got things like pygeum and nettle and saw palmetto and pumpkin seed. All of these things are going to take the androgens and put it down the healthy beta pathway, right? So again, you need to run your Dutch, because you don't know until you check. Their estrogen levels may not be sky high. Their testosterone levels may not be dysfunctional. So we want to check. Usually it is, but always look. A lot of men will just jump on testosterone, bioidentical hormones. And to me, that is always a last resort. Bioidentical hormones are a very last resort for me, especially with men. We want to clean up the estrogen pathways. We want to clean up the testosterone pathways. We want to, give herbs to boost those first if needed. Oftentimes, the problem isn't that they don't have enough, even though they'll run like a testosterone blood panel and it's low. When we look at those metabolites, they're sky high, but they're toxic. They're so toxic. And that's leading to this dysfunction in the prostate and this high level of prostate, PSA on the prostate test. So what we want to do is not add in more testosterone and fuel that fire, right? So we want to look at the metabolism, check the pathways, get proper herbal support on board first. There are some men where yes, we see like dead levels of hormones all across the board. So DHEA is down, estrogen is down, testosterone is down, adrenal hormones are down, and that's where we think about doing like pregnenolone and DHEA. But that's only if we're seeing flatline levels. Then we'll want to get the levels up, but that's very rare. Usually, it's just a dysfunction in the pathway. The hormones are going toxic versus where they need to be. So we want to test that. So in summary, with the prostate issues, lots of orgasms. That's number one. We want to get the foundation support on board, get them onto a clean diet. We want to get them moving. We want to run a Dutch. We want to get the prostate and the testosterone and the estrogen levels supported first. Products that I like to use for prostate now, Prostate Pro is really great. Belle has a prostate tea. So if men, when their prostate starts to be inflamed, they can have trouble peeing. So they'll start to pee and then it stops, and they start and it stops, and it really can be very aggravating for them. And the Belle Prostate Pro Flow tea, something like that. The brand is Belle, Bell. They have a really great tea that really helps that get moving and helps flush everything there. So those are products that I like to use. But as always, guys, run the labs. I know that men can be really resistant to getting healthy, especially if we're preaching it to them. Like, I don't know if you remember Eric's story where here I am healing naturally from lupus, starting my business, helping all these people around the world healing. And he's like, I don't take supplements. I don't need those supplements. I'm healthy. I feel good. Leave me alone. I'm like, okay, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't force you to take them, but I can spike your smoothie. So I'll start doing that instead. And that's what saved his life when he ended up having a stroke. So, there's ways around it. You can just get them to do the labs. And I'm not promoting spiking anybody's smoothie, except if you want to do your husband's. Like, that's your choice, ladies. I feel you there. So let's get to some questions. Heidi says, my doctor recommended laying off the sugar and doing some cardio for cholesterol. Mine is just elevated. I don't know the number. So get the number. Always, if you run blood work with your doctors, get the number, look in the back of the book. Like, here's the book. Here's the back of the book. There is a chart. Let me find the chart first. Okay, there it is. There's my chart. And red blood cells, that's not it. Where's the cholesterol levels? Iron, there we go. Whole chart on cholesterol. I don't know if you guys can see it because I can't see what you're seeing. Look, check your levels. Make sure that you are very well informed. Ron says, thank you for being here for us. You are very welcome. Carolyn says, my dad's PSA numbers have come down since we've done testing and supplements. Oh yeah, it will come down. It's a great conversation to have with your dad. Dad, I think you need to have more orgasms. Jeez, that's still an uncomfortable conversation for me with my parents. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Everybody else, that's fine, but definitely not with my parents. So good luck with that. But yes, you guys have the tools. If you want to get some labs, then just hit me up. Go to my website, www.sgintegrativehealing.com. I do have some spaces available for coaching for the next few months before we have this big expansion. But honestly, I'd rather see you in the Integrative Healing Academy. You can learn to interpret the labs yourself, whether you go on to become a practitioner or not. You can have this knowledge for yourself, for your family, forever. And if you want to become a practitioner, great. We are in need of more practitioners. And I am so excited for what we have in store for our current practitioners and for everybody else who's joining the Academy. Speaking of the Academy, we have our call in 3 minutes. That's me cutting it close today. We have our support call every 2 weeks. And so I'm going to go and do that now. So you guys have a great day and we'll talk to you. And look at me. I am being really consistent with these live streams every 2 weeks. Probably because I have to shower for the live calls for the Academy. And it's so funny. My hair is so cooperative. This side is like a rebellious toddler called, I will not listen to you. I will not do anything that you want me to do. And so I'm like, fine. This side is like, oh, I'll do a little curl, maybe, but it cooperates a little bit more. This side, not so much. It's like Caden. I do not have to listen to you today. You are, well, today I'm Bernard and his dad is Bianca and he is the rescuer. So this is what happens when we start watching movies. All right, guys, you guys have yourself a great weekend, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Bye.